You lot were crap last night.
Bloody funny coming from a Burnley supporter.
It's better.
We're still not saying they can pull the nuclear trigger.
The 45 minutes is stronger. And even where he said he couldn't help, he has.
You've lost me.
Page 16. We said might was weak, and he said we cannot improve the use of the word might, but when you look at the new draft, he's actually taken out the whole sentence, so it ends up reading stronger anyway.
Have you heard the CIA response?
No?
Tenet's calling it that they can attack in 45 minutes. Shit. Is he in? Jonathan has found another elephant trap.
On page 19, we
Hang
say,
on.
Saddam. Saddam is prepared to use chemical and biological weapons if he believes his regime is under threat.
Well, that's been there since the first draft.
It's the Don McIntyre argument. There is no threat. It only exists if we create it by attacking him.
It went to the printers at 3 o'clock.
It's an argument against war. It has to come out.
Oh, it's up to you, John. But this thing only has credibility if we can say it's entirely the work of the JIC.
I'll take a look.
The Iraq dossier, MI6 reports Iraq can deploy a chemical or biological bomb in 45 minutes.
Long delayed, much anticipated, the dossier had journalists sprinting to deliver its message. Iraq's weapons threaten the world's stability. It says Saddam Hussein is ready to use chemical and biological weapons. It shows how hard he's trying to become the first Arab.
There we are.
Thank you.
Tuna and cucumber. Is there anything else you need?
No.
Foreign Secretary, may I welcome you again on behalf of the committee? Would you firstly please introduce your colleague before we start?
Dr. David Kelly, who is an advisor to the Foreign Office now, but he spent 7 years, 37 inspections as a UN inspector in Iraq.
Foreign Secretary, on behalf of the committee, can I just say we are very grateful that you have found the time to see us today to discuss an issue of very great importance.
Welcome to Wonderland.
Good to see you.
I wanted to see this.
You say this is where they pasteurize the milk product.
Are you sure about that? If this equipment is for pasteurizing baby milk, why does it need double-lined pipework and a negative pressure containment vessel? That suggests to me that you're more concerned to prevent something toxic getting out than harmful bacteria getting in and ruining your product. And if this is indeed a baby food factory, why does it need a barbed wire fence and guard towers at 50-yard intervals? Excuse me. I'd like to look in here, please.
ممكن الآن أن يتفضل إلى الداخل.
He says you may go in now.
knew I was coming, didn't they?
UN announced it last Thursday. I thought you knew.
Why don't they just hold up a sign? Biological expert arriving, 1 week to hide everything away.
Excuse me, Dr. Kelly?
Thank you.
Spooks. Don't give too much away.
Sugar?
No. Claire, this is really very sweet of you, but I'm here with the UN, not the Ministry of Defense. There's an absolute limit to what I can tell you.
Actually, I was hoping we could be of some use to you. We've been monitoring the import of unusually large amounts of growth media. As you can see, some of it was sourced in the UK. A firm called Oxoid, amongst others. Useful?
May I keep this?
Of course.
What I think is interesting about the inspector's work, and if I'm wrong, I invite Dr. Kelly to correct me because he was there and I was not, was that when the international community was clear and resolute, the environment for the inspectors was a very different one from the moment it became obvious that it was possible for Saddam to play one member of the international community off against another.
You're absolutely right in that analysis.
Chief Inspector Blix returned to headquarters today to tell the UN that his men are scouring Iraq and that so far they've found nothing.
What do the polls say?
68% think the threat of WMD has been exaggerated. 63% think Saddam isn't dangerous enough to justify an attack. 53% of our own supporters.
Time for another dossier.
I agree. No, I think you're right. The spooks have just released some new intelligence. It's chapter and verse on how Iraq's obstructing Blix on a daily basis. We need to get this out to the public as soon as possible. Paul, I want you to pull this together.
Me?
No wonder we can't find the weapons. Saddam's secret police are tying inspectors in knots. Top and tail it with some facts and figures.
Shouldn't the JIC work it out first?
We haven't got time for all that crap again. I want to hand it out on the plane to Washington in 5 days' time. We just need something cheap and cheerful. Shift attention from the vanishing bloody WMD.
The spooks aren't going to like it.
Tough. Prime Minister's going to be talking about this in the Commons next week, but you sad lot get a sneak preview.
Another dossier.
It's a step-by-step on how Iraq's pulling the wool over the inspector's eyes. And it's just been declassified.
Large sections do indeed appear verbatim. This, for example, 6 paragraphs long on Saddam's special security organization.
Are you sitting down? You know that dossier you handed out on the plane? Channel 4 is saying most of it was lifted from a 12-year-old PhD thesis. What? Posted on the internet, apparently.
John Scarlett.
John, I'm on a train. Can you hear me?
The dossier you released last week, Alistair.
Well, it wasn't really a dossier. It was more like
It contained some intelligence that we had declassified for you.
Yes?
But you didn't have the courtesy to clear it with me or with the JIC.
John.
Which is unfortunate, given that large parts of it now appear to have been lifted from a thesis by Mr. Ibrahim al-Marashi. But with 1 or 2 important changes, such as aiding opposition groups, mysteriously becoming supporting terrorist organizations. I really don't know which I find more troubling, Alistair, the fact that it was done behind my back, or the fact that it was done so incompetently.
Now.
told me to top a tail here. They sent some stuff over from the FCO. I thought it was government papers.
You didn't check?
No, I
don't know what to say to you. I'm completely fucking speechless. You managed to totally infuriate the intelligence agencies, totally undermine the message we're trying to get across, all in one utterly pathetic, unimportant 19-page document. You're a complete fucking disgrace. Get out of my sight.
Head for the war zone. It's the dead of night. Some have just written letters to their loved ones back in the UK to be posted if they don't return home.
Need any help?
We're fine, thanks. Want to truffle?
Anything I can do? I thought that was just the groom. I might just go for a little walk, if no one needs me.
All right. Don't take those out, because they can stay in the cooler until the very last minute.
Shouldn't you be getting change?
Shouldn't you be writing your speech?
So, what do you think of your future brother-in-law?
Honestly?
Honestly?
Well, I always knew she'd go for a man who reminded her of her father.
At least she's doing something to provide her father with a grandchild. Yes, yes. Here's this.
Oh, it's so sweet.
Worth the walk. I saw it being born. What about you? Will you ever be getting married?
Well, if I do, you'll be the last to know.
No, not for you, I think.
Oh, come on.
Of course.
This morning of several explosions in and around the city. The first time it will have been targeted in daylight. The people of Baghdad may be once again bracing themselves for another onslaught. Last night, wave after wave of missiles slammed into the Iraqi capital. Over 1,000 cruise missiles were used. It's believed several official buildings, including a presidential palace, went up in flames.
David Kelly.
Said this
David,
marked the start of the
it's Qasim.
in earnest.
Qasim, where are you?
In Baghdad.
My God.
Bombardment lasted on and off for several hours.
How did you get a line?
Just wanted to hear a friendly voice.
My daughter's getting married today. Are you okay?
I'm sorry to disturb you.
No, you're not disturbing me at all. Did you want us to try and get you out? Qasim? Qasim?
Al-Hakam is a single-cell protein plant for the production of animal feed. We have no biological weapons program.
Okay, we're going around in circles here. Iraq has already admitted it has a military research program. If you're going to lie to me, at least get your story straight.
That's at Salman Park, not Al-Hakam.
Okay, let's start again. Why do you need HEPA filters at Al-Hakam?
Let's take a break, shall we?
You know, we've met before, Dr. Kelly.
Really?
In 1987. I attended a seminar you gave at Newcastle University. I was a student.
Maybe I'm the father of Iraq's BW program without knowing it.
You were a good teacher.
Thank you.
Under different circumstances, we would be colleagues.
All we really want, Qasim, is the truth.
Here, Dr. Kelly, the truth will kill you.
Qasim?
Is this the original?
No, I made a copy. He needed it back by the morning.
It looks like a rundown of their drying process.
Mm-hmm.
It's hardly the crown jewels.
Well, at least it's more than they've admitted to officially, and it's from the SSO where the real files are kept. And I feel we're only going to break through if we get inside that building. And, I mean, I think he's taken a real chance letting me see that. I feel... I want him protected, Claire.
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
Background briefings are one thing, but no one said anything about being quoted by name.
I'm so sorry. I've been in New York. I will ring Nick Rufford. I certainly did not give him permission.
From now on, I think your contacts with the press had better be cleared by us in advance. I need your assurance on that.
Yes, absolutely. Would you excuse me just a moment, Patrick?
Secretary of State, I wonder if you know Dr. David Kelly, our former Chief Weapons Inspector in Iraq.
Ah, yes. You and your team did a wonderful job.
Oh, well, thank you. Actually, a number of us were wondering how the 75th are getting on in the search for WMD.
Well, it's early days, of course, but we're beginning to see the mosaic of evidence building up.
Oh, good, good. The thing is that the 75th have no experience in the field of biodisarmament, and that there are archives in Baghdad which will be absolutely crucial if we're to locate these weapons, and in the Special Security Organization, for example. So you can see we're very keen to get out there and secure them, and the Americans seem to be dragging their feet. And so I was wondering if there was anything you could do to help us. Hello, Susan.
Oh, I didn't think I'd get you. When do you leave for Iraq?
In a day or so. It's just a recce.
I see the Americans have found some trailers.
So I hear.
Apparently they think they're mobile VW factories. What do you think?
I think I'll know more when I've examined them.
It's all a bit convenient though, isn't it? You know, mobile factories. Perfect explanation for why we can't find their WMDs.
Well, we'll find the weapons. We haven't really started looking yet. And he's had years to hide them away.
It makes the 45-minute claim in the dossier look a bit silly though, doesn't it? The fact that nothing's been found.
I think you'll find that was just a mistake. It was uncorroborated, single source. Alistair Campbell probably just thought it sounded good.
Incidentally, I heard they captured Dr. Germ. Did you ever meet her?
Ah. Her real name is Rehab Tahar. She was head of Iraq's biological weapons program in the 90s. In fact, she did her PhD at East Anglia.
Really? Will she talk?
I wouldn't think so. You bought Growth Media from Oxoid, a British company.
Yes, it was for our hospital diagnostic laboratories.
39 tons of Growth Media.
Iraq has already explained our health minister made a mistake.
A mistake?
Yes, for which he apologizes.
I see. Hospitals usually buy growth media in 1 kilo containers because it goes off so quickly, doesn't it? Why did you order it in 100 kilo drums?
You'll have to ask the health ministry.
17 of the 39 tons is unaccounted for. Where is it?
Iraq had a biological research program. It employed 10 people. It was discontinued in 1990. We do not have a weapons program. You know all this, but still you are here asking your questions. It's just an excuse for you to spy on us.
I spoke to Dr. Miller at East Anglia. I told him how you have used the knowledge he taught you. He said, it's like your daughter has suddenly gone and done something dreadful. He said, it's a great shock to me.
I'm sorry, Dr. Kelly.
I'm sorry, miles away.
You don't have a visa to enter Kuwait.
No, I'm not entering Kuwait. I'm in transit. I'm on my way to Baghdad to join the Iraq Survey Group.
But unfortunately, to reach Baghdad, you first have to enter Kuwait. For that, you need a visa.
What happened? I thought you weren't coming back until Monday.
You got a visa for everyone else. Why didn't you get one for me?
It's a total cock-up. We thought, you know, with you travelling so regularly to the Middle East, we assumed your visa was still covered.
Well, you had no business assuming that. I haven't been out there since we were forced to leave in '98. That's why we went to war, remember?
I'm really sorry, David.
Well, sorry isn't bloody good enough. I've given 12 years of my life to this. And no one gives a damn. They've got American grunts picking their way through files in Baghdad without the first idea of what they're looking for. While the people who actually know what they're doing are locked up in Kuwait overnight and deported.
Your pal says it can do anything. Can't believe it. Do I hear the creak of the coffin, Ned? Don't normally see you out before dark, Andrew.
Not funny, Kevin. Coke and a piece of that cake, please. Andrew Gilligan.
Sorry I'm late.
It's good to see you, Andrew.
It's odd that there's nothing coming out of the detainees on the whereabouts of the WMD, given the rewards the Americans are offering. Are you having second thoughts about whether they had any weapons before the war?
Not at all. We'll find them, if we're ever allowed out there again. I always said that the program was small.
Right.
And you have to bear in mind that the original draft of the dossier was much less categorical than the one which was published.
Really?
Oh, yes. It was transformed the week before publication.
In what way?
Well, the usual caveats were stripped out, and in fact, people in intelligence weren't happy because it didn't reflect the considered view they were putting forward.
They would destroy them prior to a conflict. And I don't know the answer, and I suspect we'll find out.
I talked to you about the Gilligan piece.
What Gilligan piece?
He is naughty. He told me you knew all about it.
Who's the source?
The chief British weapons inspector, but apparently we can't say that. So the September dossier was transformed a week before publication to make it sexier. Classic was the 45-minute claim. It was real intel, but included against our wishes. How did this happen? Answer, Campbell.
Okay, add it to the bid for Ingram as well, and stand by for the complaints.
You know, it would make everyone's life a lot easier if Andrew would come into the office and pitch his stories at the meeting like everyone else, instead of dumping them on us at the last minute when it's too late for us to shape them properly.
That's the way he does it. Go through the script with a fine-tooth comb, you know what he's like.
Andrew?
Oh, shit.
The government is facing more questions this morning over its claims about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Our defense correspondent is Andrew Gilligan. This in particular, Andy, is Tony Blair saying they'd be ready to go within 45 minutes?
That's right. That was the central claim in his dossier, which he published in September. And what we've been told by one of the senior officials in charge of drawing up the dossier was that actually the government probably knew that 45-minute figure was wrong before they decided to put it in. Downing Street, our source says, ordered a week before publication, ordered it to be sexed up, to be made more exciting. The dossier, as it was finally published, made the intelligence services unhappy because it didn't reflect the considered view they were putting forward. That's a quote from our source.
Remember, no applause when he arrives. Keep it low-key. This isn't a celebration. People have died.
What's all this about Gilligan and the dossier?
The log's a bit vague, but it looks like they didn't.
Okay.
They didn't give us a chance to respond to a story that made serious and untrue allegations. That's a direct breach of their guidelines.
No, say we categorically deny the allegations.
Gilligan?
Did this lot know?
Oh, yes.
Cheer up. Might never happen.
Does John Scarlett have any idea who the source is?
Haven't asked him. Of course, he might find it quite difficult to answer that question.
You're kidding.
They were pretty pissed off over the February dossier.
Well, maybe instead of being pissed off, you could come down here and explain to the British public where the WMD are hiding. Because I, for one, would quite like to hear the answer.
Here, MPs are calling for an inquiry after accusations that the government's dossier on Iraq's weapons was distorted by Downing Street. Security sources have told the BBC they believe parts of the report overstated the threat posed by Saddam Hussein.
If you take intelligence and you massage it for political purposes, then essentially you turn it into propaganda.
David Kelly?
Hi, David. It's Susan here.
Oh, I just left you a voicemail.
So you've been in New York?
It was Blix's farewell, so
I don't know if you've been
Following the rumpus over here.
I gathered something was up.
What intrigued me and which prompted me to ring you was the quotes yesterday on the Today programme about the 45 minutes part of the dossier.
Yep. We spoke about this before, of course.
Yes, we have.
I think you know my views on that.
Yes, I've looked back at my notes and you're actually quite specific at that time. I may have missed a trick on that one, but you were more specific
Than the source on the Today programme. In fact, you actually referred to Alistair Campbell in that conversation.
Yep. Yeah, with you.
Yes.
Are you getting much flack over that?
Me? No, not yet anyway. I've been in New York.
Yes, it was good timing, I suppose.
I don't think they would think of me, would they? Maybe they would. Maybe they wouldn't. I don't know.
Who are these rogue elements you refer to within the intelligence services who are using this row over weapons of mass destruction to undermine the government? Who are they?
Well, first of all, they are anonymous. Their position is not known. One of them was certainly the person who'd been briefing Andrew Gilligan, and it is quite frankly a disgrace that the leadership of those intelligence security services should have had their integrity impugned over the last week by one or two unnamed individuals who claim to be
How are we doing on Gilligan?
John Reed had a go on Today this morning.
Yeah, I heard.
Did you hear Susan Watts ran a very similar piece to Gilligan's on Newsnight?
No, I didn't.
In the run-up to publishing the dossier, the government was obsessed with finding intelligence on immediate Iraqi threats. The insistence the threat was imminent was a Downing Street interpretation of intelligence conclusions.
Well, that's bollocks for a start.
Do you want to add it to the Sandbrook letter?
No. Let's keep the focus on Gilligan.
I was just trying to ring you. Sir Richard's a little unhappy about John's references to rogue elements on Today this morning.
Right.
There are implications for the morale of SIS staff if they think ministers don't trust them.
Well, I haven't had a chance to discuss it with him, but that's certainly not John's view.
Really? He's quoted in exactly those terms in the Times this morning. By Tom Baldwin, I believe.
What's that supposed to mean?
Of course, none of this need matter. As long as it's not an indication that we're being lined up to take the blame for intelligence failures in the run-up to the war. Because we do, of course, have detailed notes on the way the September dossier was compiled, and on the frequency and at times unusual nature of the demands from Number 10.
Well, maybe if one of your lot hadn't told Gilligan last week the dossier was sexed up, John wouldn't have felt the need to respond.
That had nothing to do with us, as I'm sure you know.
How do I know? Because you say so?
Sir Richard, I can assure you absolutely no one is being lined up for anything. And if you listen to Prime Minister's questions today, I think you'll hear an unequivocal vote of confidence in the intelligence services.
Delighted to hear it.
And I'm told we'll be able to firm up the mobile labs in the next day or so.
Let's hope so.
What a load of shit. Talk about rewriting history.
Calm down and listen to what he's saying. We're being warned.
Military weapons experts tell NBC News this looted trailer is a mobile biological weapons laboratory and the most significant weapons of mass destruction find to date. This lab and the 2 others found so far matched the description Secretary of State Colin Powell delivered to the United Nations before the war.
David Kelly.
David, Brian Wells. How are you getting on with the trailers?
I'm examining them now.
Well, people here are pretty keen to know what you think.
Well, I think they're exactly what the Iraqis said they were, mobile generators of hydrogen for weather balloons.
Right. That's not what the Americans are saying.
Well, then the Americans are wrong. I had a feeling I might find you here.
We were briefed to expect you.
Really?
Yeah. My CO says you're Mr. WMD, and we're supposed to treat you like the equivalent of a 1 or 2 star general. I told him I've worked with him before, and I'll be treating him like a 1 or 2 star brat.
It's been absolute chaos. 75th are just an artillery unit. They know less than I do about CBW.
What have you found?
Nothing. Not a bloody thing. And that's mostly because the intelligence is so crap. They send us these grid references, and when we get there, there's nothing there.
Unless you know where to look, you'll never find it.
And how will you know where to look?
Same way we always did. By finding a document that tells us where to look.
It's a bit different to the last time we were here.
ONSCOM's withdrawing from Iraq in 48 hours. If you are ever going to help me, it has to be now.
So? Talk.
You heard Dr. Tahar tell us that the weapons stockpiles have been destroyed?
Yes.
I don't believe her. I believe they still exist, and the documents to prove it are hidden within the SSO. We've been denied access, so New York has decided to pull us out. It may be years before we're able to return, so I have 2 days to locate and examine these documents. Please, Hassim, I need the truth.
The truth? It's very simple, Dr. Kelly. There are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
They were destroyed on Saddam's orders. They were destroyed.
I just don't have time for this anymore. If that's true, why withhold the documents? It makes no sense.
You did your job too well. They destroyed them all.
I suppose I should be used to being lied to by now, but somehow I'm not. Well, I'll tell you one thing that is true. I will return to this God-forsaken country, and if necessary, I will tear down the SSO building brick by brick until I can show verifiably that Iraq has an active and growing program of weapons production, and then I will personally dismantle that program, even if it's the last thing on this earth that I do. I thought the Americans had it under guard.
They did until about a week ago.
Okay, let's get it, boys.
This isn't looting, but somebody wants us to think it is.
David, we don't have time for this.
What was that name again?
Hamdani. Qasim Hamdani. H-A-M...
Qasim Hamdani.
We're going to miss our flight.
I'm sorry, sir. He's on the list, but we don't have him.
Could he be being held somewhere else?
What's the quote?
A British scientist and a biological weapons expert.
Well, that could be anyone.
Actually, it couldn't. There's only 4 scientists who've examined the trailers that fit that description.
Well, what's the quote?
They are exactly what the Iraqis said they were. Facilities for the production of hydrogen gas to fill balloons.
I'll call you back.
Oh, it's Wells. I'm sorry. David Kelly.
David, sorry to bother you on a Sunday. Have you seen The Observer?
We don't usually take The Observer.
Well, there's a quote from a British scientist talking about the trailers, and the words are exactly the same as the ones you used when you described them to me.
Really?
I'm afraid I have to ask you, David. Are you the source for this story?
No, I'm not.
The story says the results of this investigation are hugely embarrassing for the Prime Minister. People are pretty upset about this, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes, of course, but as I said, I am not the source.
It's a bit awkward.
Best to come straight out with it then.
MI5 have an investigator looking into the leaks, including the one with Andrew Gilligan. The standard procedure in such a situation would be to look at who had access to each of the leaked reports, cross-reference and try to produce a profile of the person responsible.
Right.
The source has been busy over the last 6 or 7 months. The source has a close knowledge of the intelligence used for the dossier, yet uses the word they, suggesting he or she is not a member of the intelligence services. The source's work is directly connected with Iraq's weapons capability. The source is sufficiently well informed to give a statistical estimate of Iraq's likely capability. You usually quote capability as a percentage, David. I've always admired it. It's a sign of your precision.
Did you know that I had converted to the Baha'i faith?
No, I didn't.
One of the things that attracted me was their teaching on respect for the truth. I can't bear being lied to, Claire. When the Iraqis lied to me in the 90s, it just made me more determined. And it's the same when people lie to the public about the trailers. I just get an overwhelming urge to tell the truth. Or when they lie about what happened to the files at the SSO, which unaccountably seem to have been destroyed. The Baha'i teach that rather than lying, one should disseminate the truth as widely as...
But you're lying now. You're lying every time you deny briefing a journalist you've spoken to. If I'm reading this, David, then so are others. And they can put 2 and 2 together too. If you do have anything to say, you should volunteer it before MI5 come calling.
That key phrases in the dodgy dossier were sexed up for effect. Opposition groups becoming terrorist organisations. Doesn't this suggest that Gilligan was right? That the first dossier was also sexed up by your department?
The first dossier was the product of months of detailed work by the intelligence agencies. It had the chairman of the JIC in the lead. The briefing paper was given out to 6 journalists on a plane. There's no comparison.
You didn't answer the question.
What question?
The way the dodgy dossier was produced cast doubt on the first dossier.
Well, that's the answer I'm going to give. They're produced in totally different ways. One tells you nothing about the other.
Carry on?
Yeah. But let's get off the dodgy bloody dossier.
Okay, but that's where we're vulnerable. That's where the attacks will come.
Mobile from Television Centre.
I'm sorry that we still seem far apart on the validity of our reporting on the concerns about the September dossier. I'm going to open a flank against the BBC.
Turning to the original September dossier, Mr. Campbell, the Prime Minister today said that every word is true. Now, the conclusion being queried is the 45-minute point. Are you saying this is what the intelligence people are telling you, and it must be true?
Having seen the meticulousness and care that the chairman of the JIC and the intelligence services were taking in the whole process, I didn't think it was my place, to be perfectly frank, to say, hold on a minute, what's this about? What is completely and utterly and 100% untrue, is, and this is the BBC allegation, is that I in any way overrode that judgment, sought to exaggerate that intelligence, or sought to use it in any way that the intelligence agencies were not 100% content with. Let's get to the heart of what the allegation is. That the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the intelligence agencies, people like myself, connived to persuade Parliament to send British forces into action on a lie. That's the allegation. I tell you, until the BBC acknowledge that is a lie, I will keep banging on that. Correspondence file will get thicker, and they'd better issue an apology pretty quickly. Sorry to get angry.
No, that's very clear.
Now the shit's really going to hit the fan.
David!
And these are the actual notes you took during the conversation.
That's the literal printout from my organiser.
Better take it down to the legal department. Have it bagged and logged. I have a feeling we're going to need it.
Okay.
It doesn't confirm the 607.
What do you mean?
It's got Campbell and included against our wishes, but he doesn't say the government probably knew the 45 minutes was wrong.
Well, he definitely said it.
Andrew, this is really important. Are you absolutely sure?
I remember him saying it. I just, I must not have written it down.
What?
Sorry to interrupt. You really ought to see this.
We've spoken to a senior official intimately involved in the process of pulling together the original September 2002 Blair weapons dossier.
When did
Our
this go
source
out?
talks of a febrile atmosphere in the days leading up to the big Commons debate of September
2nd of June.
last year, of the government seizing on
4 days
anything
after
useful to
Gilligan.
the case, including the possible existence of weapons.
Why didn't they alert us to it when the row blew up?
5 minutes.
No idea.
Statement that was made, and it just got out of all proportion. They were desperate for information. They were pushing hard for information which could be released. That was one that popped up, and it was seized on. And it's unfortunate that it was.
David, I'm sure you know this letter has extremely serious implications.
Of course.
On your own admission, you appear to have breached a number of the regulations governing contact with journalists. Now, I need to establish today whether formal disciplinary action should be taken against you.
Ah, right.
Why do you need the name of my source?
Well, your reports very clearly inhabit the same territory as Andrew Gilligan's.
No, sorry to interrupt, Richard, but I don't accept at all that my reports corroborate Gilligan. Have you actually read them?
I watched the tape.
Well, they don't say included against our wishes. They don't say probably knew it was wrong. They don't say...
They're substantially the same allegations. And given the pressure we're facing from the government, I don't think it's unreasonable...
That really is the worst kind of moral blackmail, Richard. You're prepared to take the BBC to the wall over not revealing Gilligan's source, but you think it's absolutely fine to ask me to betray mine. I promised him anonymity. You're asking me to breach the first rule of journalism.
Susan.
The answer's no.
Have you read the standing instructions on contacts with the press?
I don't believe so.
Have you sought guidance on what they contain?
No, I don't think I have.
Really? So, who gave you authority to exercise your own judgment on contact with journalists, contrary to those instructions?
You did. Indirectly. It's in my job description. Roles and responsibilities, number 3. Communicating Iraq issues to the media. I think that's your name at the bottom there, Brian.
Sorry about that. Okay, where were we?
We need to get the source up as soon as possible. Up? Out to the press. The best way to undermine Gilligan is to show that his own source won't back his story.
Kevin?
I think letting him appear before the committee would be kinder.
What's his position? We don't want to put him up to the FAC and then have him rubbish our case.
I think we can rely on him to be pretty sound, except perhaps on the trailers.
Exactly. It's a nightmare. If we get it out ourselves, we can control it.
So, where is he now?
Does anyone actually know who David Kelly is? I thought not. In the 90s, we sent him to Russia on a rather sensitive mission. It took him months to get their trust, but eventually they admitted to a massive stockpile of biological weapons. Iraq's would pale into insignificance by comparison. That stockpile, which was undeclared and uncatalogued, was arguably the greatest threat to life on Earth ever manufactured. And Kelly found it. He then set about dismantling it. As a result of his efforts, that threat to mankind no longer exists. He's the world's leading expert on biological disarmament. If anyone can find Iraq's secret weapons, he can. Above all, as a British civil servant, we owe him a duty of care. Let's not lose sight of that as we serve him up to public scrutiny for our own purposes.
I understand you went ahead with your meeting with Gilligan, despite a specific instruction from the Foreign Office to clear such contacts in advance. Is that right?
Yes.
Or you didn't clear it?
No. That was an oversight.
Gilligan's source described the dossier as having been transformed the week before publication to make it sexier. Did you say that?
It's not a term I would use.
Did you say anything to Gilligan to that effect?
No, not that I can recall. The discussion about the dossier was actually quite fleeting. Beg on.
Well, Gilligan's source said the 45-minute claim was included against our wishes because it wasn't reliable.
I can't believe I would have said that. I don't know the wishes of the intelligence services.
Did you discuss with Gilligan Alistair Campbell's role in the dossier?
He did raise it.
And what did you say?
I said I couldn't comment.
Is there anything about your contact with Gilligan, or in fact any other journalist, that you may have omitted to mention? In your own interest, if there is, you should say so now.
No, I think we've covered it.
Have you read the notes?
I've had a report, yeah.
We've got to get this out tonight. Tony?
I'm thinking.
I mean, his version differs from Gilligan's all over the place. Getting the story out will sink them.
What do you think of this? You listening? Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. Putting him up before the FAC could be a real two-edged sword. If we get it out tonight, we can lock the story in on our terms.
Tony!
I'll be right there! Look, you can put out a press release saying that someone's come forward, okay? But don't name them. I want this declared at the FAC.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Right, well, if that's the decision, he's got to be extremely carefully briefed for the hearing. He'll have to confirm he's the source, but deny saying what Gilligan said he said.
Okay, well, you better talk to Jeff.
We need a clear win with the BBC, Tony.
Right.
Not messy draw.
Right, yeah.
And we'll need a rock-solid Q&A. If we announce that someone's come forward and we don't give them a name, there'll be a full-on bloody feeding frenzy. We'll need to know how to respond.
Sure.
Now, with Jon Snow and Christian Gurumurthy, it's tonight's Channel 4 News.
Campbell versus Gilligan. The government says it may have found the source for the allegations. if you thought it was all over. It isn't now. The Ministry of Defence says the source himself came forward unattributably, saying he met the BBC's reporter a week before the original story.
Yes.
Good evening. The timing is bizarre.
Actually,
a day after
it's
a select
me.
committee effectively declared a draw in the fight between Campbell and the BBC, the Ministry of Defence produces a possible source for the original allegations. But he didn't say all the BBC reported. He wasn't an intelligence official.
Well, Downing Street isn't commenting on this statement tonight, but clearly Alistair Campbell must be gnashing his teeth and licking his lips with delight, because, as you say, the MOD statement says that the person who's come forward wasn't one of the senior officials involved in drawing up the dossier.
Everyone's working on their lists. If I'm going to run this stuff, I need to do it now. It'll leak by tomorrow.
He is described as a middle-ranked...
Anyone seen the Times this morning? Apparently, the source works for Pax at the MOD, is not a spook, but is a former UN weapons inspector. You've all but named him. Why don't you just tell us who he is?
I can't comment on the Times story. The source is a technical expert who's worked for a variety of departments and whose salary is currently paid for by the MOD. That's all I can say.
Is it a man or a woman?
Well, you've got a 50% chance of being right, haven't you?
No, I haven't been updated.
No, not at the moment, great.
Does his name rhyme with someone's in the press office?
No comment.
I can see him in my mind. He's that guy who gave the background briefing at the MOD last year, isn't he?
Press office.
Oh, hi, it's Chris again. Is it Dr. David Kelly?
Yes, it is. The FT have got it.
It's Nick Rufford.
Sorry to arrive unannounced.
I'm afraid you've had a wasted journey.
The MOD are briefing on Gilligan's source. It's likely you'll be named tonight. I came to warn you.
I think you better leave now.
Sure. We can put you and Janice up in a hotel if it would help.
No, I don't think so.
Fine. Just bear in mind the press will be here in an hour.
They already are, aren't they?
Goodbye, Nick. What did he want?
Well, the gloves are off. He's going to name me as Gilligan's source.
How does he know it's you? Did you tell him?
No, of course not. That's the end of a very long friendship. I better phone in. Well, I'm pretty annoyed you gave out my name to the press. I was led to believe that my identity would be protected. In fact, I was given assurances it would be.
I promise you, we didn't give out your name to the press. What we did was confirm it when it was put to us.
Well...
But don't let's argue about this now, David. I really would urge you to leave the house as soon as possible.
What? What, right now?
Well, within the next 10 minutes.
Which do you want? David, you tell me we have 10 minutes to leave the house. I don't know why. I don't know for how long. You turn my life upside down without any explanation. Talk to me! What does it say?
He's written it to look like I've given him a full-blown interview. In his first public comments since the row blew up, Dr. David Kelly said, "Thanks, Nick."
You barely spoke to him.
The MOD don't know that. I promised not to talk to the press as far as they're concerned. I've broken my word already.
You shouldn't have spoken to that man, Gilligan.
Why ever not? It's part of my job to talk to journalists. No one ever minded in the past. I don't think this has anything to do with me and Andrew. The government started a war with the BBC because they can't find any weapons in Iraq. And I'm being sacrificed as some sort of diversion. Well, I'm damned. I'm damned if I'm just going to roll over and die for them. Yep. All right. Yes? Yeah. I have to go back to London. I'm apparently to be televised in front of the Foreign Affairs Committee.
You can go in now.
David, sorry about this. I know you've travelled a long way.
Yeah.
Tea?
No, thank you. Brian, before we begin, I
Can
have
I
to
just
say that...
give you this? It's from Head of Personnel.
What is it?
It's an official reprimand. However, it also states that no further action will be taken against you. In fact, I can't see any reason why you shouldn't return to Iraq immediately. Would you be able to fly out at the end of next week?
Well, there are one or two things I need to sort out, of course, but yes, I can't see any reason why that would not be possible, if that's what you need me to do.
Excellent. I know your team will be very relieved. There is one other clause in your letter from Richard. If at any stage we were to discover that you'd misled us, if any facts were to come to light which cast doubt on the account you gave us last week, well, then I'm sorry to say that formal disciplinary action would need to be reconsidered. And under those circumstances, a return to Iraq would, of course, be out of the question.
Time to go.
In a minute, we'll be going over live to the Foreign Affairs Committee at Westminster, where a government microbiologist is about to give evidence to the committee about his conversation with a BBC reporter. Where David Kelly, the government advisor who spoke to the BBC before that report about sexed up intelligence, is now giving evidence to
Phil Kelly had been briefed. Yeah, by the MOD.
Dr. Kelly, may I ask what was your involvement in the preparation of the September dossier?
My involvement was writing an historical account of the UNSCOM inspections and providing input into Iraq's concealment and deception.
Dr. Kelly, could I ask you to speak up a bit? There are fans running.
I'll try.
I'm sure members of the public at the back can't hear you.
What was your understanding as to who put the final imprimatur, the final seal on the document?
I was not involved in that process, and I did not have that understanding.
You didn't discuss it with Gilligan?
No.
So you made no comments as to the veracity of that document? You didn't say it was exaggerated, embellished, probably over-egged?
No, I had no doubts that the veracity of it was absolute.
Mr. Gilligan said in his article, I asked him, the source, how this transformation happened. The answer was a single word, Campbell. In your discussion with Mr. Gilligan, did you use the word Campbell in that context?
I cannot recall using the name Campbell in that context. It doesn't sound like something I would say.
Do you believe that the document was transformed by Alistair Campbell?
No, I do not believe that at all.
What other journalists have you met since 2002 onwards?
That is something that should be formally requested of the Ministry of Defence.
I disagree, because it's a matter of who you met. Can it be state secrets, can it?
No, it's not state secrets at all. I have to have an accurate record of who I've met. I have to consult with my diaries.
Could you do that over the next 24 hours?
No, because I am at the moment pursued by the press and do not have access to my home.
When could you do it by?
I could do it by the end of the week, but the request should be made to the Ministry of Defence.
OK, Dr. Kelly. We're going to write formally to the MOD, but this afternoon, can you tell me those journalists whom you do recall having met? What are their names?
That is something that will be provided to you by the Ministry of Defence.
No, I'm asking you now. This is the High Court of Parliament, and I want you to tell the committee whom you met.
It is a proper question.
Who are they?
Well, the only people that I can remember having spoken to in recent times about this particular issue, not about this particular issue, is Jane Corbyn and Susan Watts.
The 45 minutes was a statement.
This is for my piece.
Out of all proportion. They were pushing hard for information that could be released. That was one that popped up, and it was seized on, and it is unfortunate that it was. That is why there is an argument between the intelligence services and Number 10, because they had picked up on it, and once they had picked up on it, you cannot pull back from it. I understand from Miss Watts, that is the record of a meeting that you had with her.
Did you speak to this guy? Of course not.
Do you still agree with those comments?
First of all, I don't recognize those comments, I have to say.
Why is he lying?
There are many people who think you were the source of that quote. What is your reaction to that suggestion?
I find it very difficult. It doesn't sound like my expression of words. It doesn't sound like a quote from me.
You deny that those are your words?
Yes.
Mr. Gilligan says he met a source in a central London hotel. Did you meet him in a central London hotel?
I did.
Which hotel was that?
Charing Cross Hotel.
The reason I ask is because I'm trying to get to the bottom of whether or not you are the source, the main source for Mr. Gilligan. In your own opinion, do you believe that you are the main source?
No, I believe I am not the main source.
Yes! I want to be absolutely clear. You do not believe that you are the main source, that it's someone else?
From the conversation I had with him, I don't see how he could make the authoritative statement he is making from the comments I made.
Since you wrote to your superiors in the way you have done, have you met Jeff Hoon?
No.
Any ministers?
No.
Do you know of any other inquiries going on in the department to seek out the source apart from you or instead of you?
No.
I reckon you are chaff. You've been thrown up to divert our probing. Have you ever felt like a fall guy? You've been set up, have you not?
That's not a question I can answer. I accept the process that is going on.
I'm sorry, you accept?
I accept the process that is happening.
No, I predicted it. I said, if we put him up to the FAC, it would be a disaster, and it was. Yeah, well, trust the MOD, eh? They told me he'd be properly schooled. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can all see how much those assurances were worth.
Members of the committee clearly felt that they did not have their man.
Andrew, calm down. It's an absolutely brilliant outcome. He denied being our source, so anything he says about my report is null and void.
But he is your source.
But don't you see, this is exactly what we agreed he'd do if the shit hit the fan. Deny it.
You agreed this in advance.
Andrew Gilligan?
Richard Otway.
Sorry.
Well, he made us look completely ridiculous. He told us he was Susan Watt's source, but he denied it.
I never said he was Susan's source.
It's in your email. He also told my colleague Susan Watts, who described him as a senior official, blah, blah. Did you actually check with her?
Who was it who called you chaff? McKinley. It's outrageous. Still, it's pretty clear they thought you were an honest witness.
The 45 minutes was a statement that was made, and it got out of all proportion. They were desperate for information. They were pushing hard for information that could be released.
That was one that popped up and it was seized on, and well, it was unfortunate it was. Which is why there is this argument between the intelligence services and Cabinet Office number 10. Because things were picked up on, and once they're picked up on it, you can't pull it back.
I understand from Miss Watts that that is the record of a meeting that you had with her. Do you still agree with those comments?
For energy.
Dad.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't like to. I knew how much you were dreading it.
They briefed me to talk about Gilligan, but then they asked me about a totally different journalist. And it just threw me completely. I think I might have made a mistake.
Dad, you're only human. And as long as you answered honestly, that's all that anybody can ever ask of you.
How are you?
Older, fatter, missing my children.
I'd like to help. What can I do?
Don't tell the Americans where to find me.
I think they'd welcome you with open arms. Tell them where the weapons are, and they'll give you a big fat reward.
They wouldn't want to hear what I have to say any more than you did 5 years ago.
Ah, yes. There are no weapons. Saddam destroyed the lot of them.
I understand you got inside the SSO on your recent trip to Baghdad.
That's right.
What did you find?
You already know, so why ask?
The Americans guard the building for 2 weeks, and then unaccountably they withdraw. You arrive and find all the files destroyed. It's made to look like looting, but the destruction is far too systematic for that. If the files proved we had biological weapons, why would the Americans have destroyed them? They would have trumpeted them from the rooftops. But isn't that why they went to war? To find the weapons?
First, you don't know it was the Americans. All we know is they withdrew their guard. Maybe some of your former colleagues took the chance to destroy the evidence of their crimes. Maybe the files were destroyed before the Americans even got there. No, it makes no sense, Asim. Why did Saddam force us out in '98? Why did he obstruct us and frustrate us at every turn? Why did he behave exactly as if he had something to hide?
Why do you, who knows Iraq so well, ask such stupid questions? You're angry because you believe you were deceived. You have let that cloud your judgment for 5 years. Think with your head, not your heart. Saddam built his regime on terror, on the certainty that he could hit back with overwhelming force with chemical and biological weapons against anyone who threatened him. If he destroys these, he knows he will be overthrown. But if he does not, eventually he knows the West will invade. So what does he do? He destroys his arsenal to placate you. But he behaves as if he has not, to avoid an uprising from his generals. Classic Saddam gamble, and like all his gambles, it failed. Why? Because he didn't realize Bush will invade whatever he does.
I don't believe you.
Why would I lie? What reason do I have to lie now? Of course, the irony is that you've now unleashed the one thing you went to war to avoid. While Saddam was in power, Al-Qaeda could never get near his scientists. They loathed each other too much. Now that he is gone, the scientists gonna sell what they know to the highest bidder. One man, one woman on that boat. A centiliter of anthrax in aerosol form. By the end of the little cruise, he's killed 100,000 people. With a container the size of this.
Is that why you wanted to see me? To tell me all this?
No. I need you to deliver this to my wife and children. I had to leave in a hurry.
Well, I'm afraid you will have to find yourself another postman.
I've offended you?
No, not at all. Officially, I'm returning to Iraq in a week. But in reality, I will never be allowed to return to Iraq, except perhaps as a tourist.
Why? What have you done wrong?
I wish I knew.
you mind if I went to lie down for a bit?
No, no, of course not.
We've had 4 more parliamentary questions.
From whom?
Bernard Jenkin.
You're not going to like it much, I'm afraid. He asks about your terms and conditions, what civil service rules and regs you breached in speaking to Gilligan, and what disciplinary measures the MOD intends to take against you. Are you okay, David?
Fine.
There's no rush. Perhaps you could draft something over the weekend? Oh, and remember, we still need clarification on your contacts with Susan Watts.
Right. I'll call you back.
Members of the Congress, it is my great privilege, and I deem it a high honor and a personal pleasure, to present to you the Right Honorable Tony Blair.
If we are wrong, we will have destroyed a threat that, at its least, is responsible for inhuman carnage and suffering. Now, that is something I am confident history will forgive. But if we are right, as I believe with every fibre of instinct and conviction I have that we are, and we do not act, we will have hesitated in the face of this menace when we should have given leadership. Now, that is something history will not forgive. And our job, my nation that watched you grow, that you fought alongside and now fights alongside you, our job is to be there with you. You are not going to be alone. We will be with you in this fight for liberty. And if our spirit is right and our courage firm, the world will be with us. Thank you. there was this flash in the audience. I thought, my God, what's that? I thought it may have been a gunshot or something.
A camera?
No, it wasn't a camera. It was actually a flash from... There was this row of medals just glinting in the light. And they were just... Thank you very much. Thanks for looking after us very well indeed. Thank you very much. And there's just this flash coming off this medal, and the extraordinary things that just go out, you know. And then there was this...
Should we try to do this one really carefully? Susan Watts.
I just left you a voicemail.
So, you've been in New York?
It was Blix's farewell.
I don't know if you've been following the rumpus over here.
I gathered something was up.
The War and Terror season continues tomorrow night at More 4 as Gerard Kearns and Matthew McNulty star in the highly provocative story of young British soldiers serving in Iraq. The Mark of Cain tomorrow night at 10. Next, could a father murder his own child just to save face? We find out in NYPD Blue.